Hi, my name is Brent Weeks. I'm the author of Lightbringer and Night Angel series. And this is the Q&R for, well, hopefully for September. Some of you said that you wanted me to be a little more off the cuff. You thought that was better than sounding really professional, which I don't agree with at all, but I'm going to try that out. So I've come in and I've been handed numerous questions. They'll be slightly surprising to me, and I'll just muddle my way through them as well as possible. So first, and later we will we'll put in some links, or we'll try to tell you this is when Brent answers this question, and so forth. On YouTube, we'll be able to actually put links so you can actually jump to it. Facebook doesn't let us do that yet, so we won't be doing that. Anyway, let's get started. Marilyn Bielinski and Lucy and Gurley both have similar questions. She says, do you have any recommendations for great books to read while we are waiting? I've already read all of yours several times. Well, certainly you can read mine again. But I have a number of my favorite books, or just books I've read recently, up on Goodreads, so you can always go there to see a little further. Like some of them, I actually give a little bit of a review for those. That list is always falling out of date because I'm always reading or listening to more things than I can actually cover. So I do have a few things that I've been reading or listening to recently. I found the history books by Ian Mortimer. One of those is like the Time Traveler's Guide to Medieval England or something. Ian Mortimer is the guy's name, and those are really good. They're accessible, but it feels like he actually knows what he's talking about, and that makes for an entertaining but informative a series of books. That one's probably the most accessible of his. Not in fantasy at all, but I've been reading. I just discovered Robert Crace. Can't even remember what the name of his book was, but he writes more mystery novels. Had this great one with a dog in it that I really enjoyed. Very, very skillful writers. I like seeing writers in other genres do what they do so well, and it kind of allows me to turn off my work brain and just enjoy a great story. I've been listening to a little bit. I've just started listening to Neil Gaiman's Trigger Warnings. He has this really long introduction, however, that took like an hour to listen to when I was at the gym, and I kind of killed my forward progress for a while. But I just listened to the first story the other day, and it was very enjoyable. Very quirky and strange, as Neil Gaiman stories so frequently are. I read a writing book called Wired for Story by Lisa Cron. It's Cron, which I enjoyed a bit, quite a bit actually. I have this funny thing. I will sometimes read a writing book, and I love to read writing books because I'm always trying to learn. But I'm reading her book, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I have no idea what I'm doing. I should just quit. I should give up. I am not a writer. So take these take writing books, all of them, with a little grain of salt, and learn what you can, and then just keep pushing forward. No, I'm not going to recommend that one. It was okay, but it wasn't great. I read several books, or listened to several books by a historian named Dan Jones. The Plantagenets and the War of the Roses, both covering somewhat similar time periods, and he's very, very good. Otherwise, again, just look at my Goodreads, and then I'm trying to do. It's not always books that I'll cover. It's whatever media I'm kind of consuming and enjoying or having thoughts about. I'll put that in the sidebar on my webpage. I'm trying to be a little briefer so that I actually get those done in a reasonable amount of time. I've got this book that needs to get done, and I've got this looming deadline, which is why I didn't post my Q&R last month. Did I talk about Q&R? Why I'm calling it Q&R? So usually you'd call this a Q&A, like question and answer, but I realized that so many times I don't actually answer. So Q&R, I stole it from someone else, some other podcaster or something. It's question and response. So I usually do respond. I don't give you stony silence, but it's not always an answer. So I thought Q&R for the month of September. Onward. Matthew Jenkins says, your combat seems to be informed by several real-world martial arts. Which ones inspired your writing the most? Writing is always either relating what you know really well or pretending as well as you can to know things that you don't know very well. So most of my understanding of combat and martial arts is secondhand. I mean, I did a little bit of martial arts earlier in my life, but I'm by no means a martial artist. But I have an abiding fascination with all sorts of martial arts, and so you'll see something on YouTube and go, that's amazing, how do they do that? And then you can just fall down a hole for a while, finding out things like that knights in armor weren't these big clunky dudes who just staggered around the battlefield and whacked at each other. In fact, they had their own martial art. And we have guys have been recreating those medieval martial arts because there's lots of these books. There's books describing everything, and of course it's sometimes there's little still pictures of things, but then there's these long Italian descriptions of how you do this thing, or these long old French descriptions of this is what you do if you want to stay alive, and so there's a number of groups. One of them is called the Historical European Martial Arts Alliance, HEMA or something, that you can look up their YouTube videos and watch these guys spar. It's amazing. It's really fun. So I'll watch those things. I'll certainly watch things with Japanese martial arts, and then I'm always exploring biographies and autobiographies of warriors, of guys who actually have been in the trenches or have been on the front lines or have been behind the lines, to try to understand how they understand their world and their work. So I understand as well as I can. I communicate those things as well as I can. But really, it's from one remove, and I'm lucky enough that now I actually know some people who have been in real world situations, so I can send them a quick email like, hey, I think this is how a guy might react. Is this true at all to your experience? And they can say, yes, or they can say, it was more like this for me and the guys I knew. So thank you. And that's what I try. Onward. Robbie Sumner, sorry, I have no idea if I butcher your name. Also, Marilyn, sorry. What real-world things inspire your writing? Oh dear, how did this question get through? For example, there's those lessons about life for Kyler remind me a lot of nihilism, while scenario gives me some Japanese vibes. And I did mention Miyamoto Musashi's influence. What real-world things inspire my writing? Man, everything. It's anything that fascinates me might end up in my books. And so that means, especially when you write a book only every 2 or even 3 years, that might mean almost anything makes it in there. So I find certain eras of history to be fascinating. Reading about when knighthood is, and the ideals of knighthood are becoming popularized or even forming in Europe, with a guy named William Marshall. There's a book by Thomas Asbridge that I read called The Greatest Knight, about him, and finding those things like how things come into be, like how people understand what is it to be a good knight. You're a Christian. and you're mostly going out and killing other Christians who are trying to kill you, you're not supposed to, the church is like really not cool with Christians killing Christians, but you guys are all cool with it somehow, and like that to me seems kind of fascinating. So I'm drawn to those things and try to and so those things might make it into my books. Other times I'll seek things out. It's a little bit out of my depth, or a lot, puts me a lot out of my depth. But I've been reading Soren Kierkegaard's Fear and Trembling recently, and that's been both a humbling and an enlightening experience. After you read this book, you might be able to guess why I've been reading Fear and Trembling. It's really fun. This is a tangent. It's really funny because I'll be sort of hanging with Soren, like, okay, yeah, I got it. I understand what you're talking about here, or I think I got it, and then I'll reach a place and I'm listening to the audiobook, and I'm like, okay, I understood all the words you used individually and all the sentences, I think, for the last 5 minutes, and I have no idea what you're talking about. Can we go back to the story thing? Because I was kind of with you there. So that's been sort of hilarious. But so stuff that I'm fascinated in will I'll either seek out books. I'll reread my Dante because it seems pertinent, or I'll seek out things to widen my own understanding, or just stuff will hit me just as part of being a human being, and that stuff will make it into the books. We're past like about 10 minutes now, so I'm going to try to call it a day there. I hope this little experiment went okay for you. Maybe we'll do it again. Thanks.